Both Autumn and Jan are playing, well, the most popular deck of recent standard times here. Take a look. Oh, Autumn's got the nice cards here too. Look at all the shinies. Uh, the Gruul Smash deck.
And I thought you were going to say, unsurprisingly, we see Autumn Burchett sitting at 6-0 because she has been absolutely crushing it
Yep,
recently. With her recent top 8 finish at the Grand Finals, and now sitting at 6-0 with actually basically the same deck that she used to top 8 the last event.
that's right. And that to me is kind of the 1-2 punch that you're looking for from Autumn, right? The Autumn loves Gruul kind of in a lifestyle, esoteric way, but Autumn is unreal at playing this deck and can find wins that other people don't find. And that to me is really how you get an edge with this deck. And like, look right here. This is a perfect example. Autumn draws her card for the turn, takes a look, and you don't just see her slam down the first thing that seems obvious and go for it. It's always thoughtful. It's always, well, do I really need to? It's always, well, what do I do if I do this next turn? And I'll tell you what, it reminds me of Paul Rietzel. That play style reminds me of how Paul plays, where, yeah, we're beating down, right? We're getting in there, but there's a thoughtfulness to it. There's a real kind of open-minded approach that you don't always see from aggro players who just want to slam cards on the battlefield and get your opponent dead as soon as possible.
Yeah, and really heads up, they're choosing to not to play a creature into Stomp and make it so that, basically, Jan, do you want to cast Stomp end of turn just to deal 2 damage to my face and play your creature, or just do nothing, right?
Perfect example, Paul, right there, right? Autumn decided not to play one of her 2 copies there, and in fact say, I want to be the one that stomps and does it. Now, it didn't work out perfectly because the Mammoth is a 3/3, but still, stomp out of hand upstairs. Now you can go ahead and play out the Brushfire Elemental, and thanks to the land drop here, even get in.
Yeah. Yeah, and Autumn, I mean, just really playing to kind of what she has in her hand, because I mean, look at her hand. It's extremely aggressive. You have a second copy of Brushfire Elemental. You have an additional Fabled Passage, which presents a ton of damage. And then we have Embercleave and possibly also Primal Might on top of that. And if you notice here, again, another heads-up play here, choosing not to go for an additional 2 points of damage, realizing that Bone Crusher Giant is a card that you should be looking to play around, and chose not to sacrifice that Fabled Passage to not only play around the Bone Crusher Giant, but ensure that on the following turn that you can play the second copy of the Brushfire Elemental and get in for tons of damage.
Boy, yeah, next turn could get completely out of hand. And I know that the chat wants to see Autumn Gruul Smash here, and I think you will. That Embercleave will likely come down in a turn or 2 and end the game on the spot. That's the type of hand that Autumn has here. She can sit there and not get in for maximum damage straight away and just steal the game in 1 or 2 hits.
Yeah, but Questing Beast was actually a really, really annoying card here, because that Primal Might's not going to work against the Questing Beast specifically, because it is a fight spell. So if you're gonna use Primal Might to get that Questing Beast off the battlefield, you're gonna have to sacrifice one of your other creatures. And she's also a mana short from actually being able to Embercleave this turn, given that she only has that 1 creature on the battlefield. So she's just really close on a bunch of different angles to close out the game this turn. Curious to see.
Can she cleave this turn?
She cannot. She's going to need 4 mana with
so
discount from the Brushfire Elementals.
Yeah.
So you could look to just offer a trade with one of the Elementals this turn, just to prevent her from getting Embercleave herself.
Right, because that is looking like the way that could go. You see Jan-Moritz Merkel calmly surveying the scene. Jan, fresh off a victory over Kai Bude, improving his record to undefeated still. 6-0 for both of these players coming in.
So this is really interesting from Jan's side, because Jan's now wondering, should I block? If he doesn't block, Autumn can sacrifice both lands, attack for 14. And if Autumn has another Bone Crusher Giant in her hand, that would be lethal.
And yeah, Jan-Moritz says, I'm going to have to respect it here and block with my Questing Beast. That makes it, I guess, impossible for Autumn to lose on Jan-Moritz's next turn.
Oh,
so that's good.
This is so good. Now Autumn fetched a forest, will now be able to use Primal Might on Kazandu Mammoth, and this plays around Mountain Embercleave off the top, which would have secured Jan-Moritz Merkel the victory had he had those combinations of cards.
Wow, incredible stuff.
Off the top.
Jeez, and there's a Shatter Skull smashing
into Embercleave for 12 damage.
Wow, incredible plays there from Autumn Burchett, narrowly avoiding death, but playing beautifully to do so. Jan-Moritz Merkel has to say, oh man, I was this close.
Yeah, that incredible sequencing here from Autumn. Now the question is, does Autumn have lethal next turn, right? Because Autumn has the forest as a land drop and can
so 3, 5, 5. It's 12, yeah. So it's going to take Jan-Moritz either casting another creature to block or having a removal spell. Otherwise, Autumn Burchett can just go for it. And it's a hard cast Bone Crusher Giant. Now, that actually does put up a decent amount of toughness here, right? Enough to soak up. So how does it go? Forest, 3/3, Crack Fabled Passage, 5/5, play Embercleave, 6/6 double strike trample with 3 toughness.
Yeah, that should be enough. Mm-hmm. That's 12 damage. And Jan has 3 toughness, so that's going to get 9. That's going to be lethal.
You know what it was, Paul? It was the Shatter Skull smashing with the 3 damage from that as well. Right. Changed it from 10 to 7, which means it went from not lethal to lethal. But of course, you can't have both, right? So there we go. Land, crack the Fabled Passage. And now Autumn Burchett gets to do the smashing here with the cleave. Sometimes you just have to believe, you know, that's all you have to do. Jan-Moritz Merkel can do nothing but look on. Total of 12 damage coming across, whether you like it or not. And that is game number 1 going to Autumn Burchett. Big smile on her face. And yep, that's what it looks like when you get cleaved if you're sitting in the other seat. We're going to take a short break. When we come back, we'll have more game action here from the Zendikar Rising Championship. Don't go anywhere. And welcome back to coverage here at the ZNR Rising Championship. Marshall Sutcliffe with Paul Cheon. And we're in the undefeated realm here. Jan-Moritz Merkel versus Autumn Burchett are sitting at 6-0. Both of them coming into the round. Very cool to see Jan-Moritz doing really well here after, say, PT Kobe in 2004. Is that what you said, Paul? 2006?
Yeah.
Whew, that was a while back. Still got it though.
Might have been. I mean, I think he was fairly new. I think he might have been a rookie that year too. Won the Pro Tour.
You know, I actually think that might have been Jan-Moritz's first Pro Tour.
Just first full stop.
I believe I remember reading that once. Yeah, I try not to put these factoids out, but yeah, Rich says yeah, so we got it.
17 years old when he won his first
young
event.
17 and just binked the PT. And apparently isn't any worse for the wear after the time here, doing very well this weekend. Autumn, of course, won her Mythic Championship just a couple years ago as well.
Yeah, but
much more recently.
Just running into the end game Gruul boss here in Autumn Burchett, because I was telling you during the break, I would have sequenced my lands differently that game, and I definitely would have lost.
Mm-hmm. Really interesting. And, you know, it really does go to what we were talking about leading into the game, right? About that cerebral method of play for these aggro decks rather than the, well, here's what I have, do I win or not approach. It really does make a big difference in really close games like the one that we just saw.
Yeah, definitely.
I am curious too, Paul. You and I were speculating. I don't know if they tested together or if they, you know, maybe compared lists or whatever, but there's a lot of similarities. They're not playing a 75 card mirror, but a lot of the same cards here.
Yeah. I mean, there are a lot of different cards to choose from, but even the fact that Jan-Moritz Merkel had a copy of Embereth Shieldbreaker in the main, which is not that common, and Autumn's list is playing 3, right? And then if you look at the sideboard that's listed there too, you know, these are all commonly played sideboard cards, but the fact that there's not actually a card that's different other than perhaps the numbers here, makes me think that maybe there was a chance that at some point Jan might have been testing with these with Autumn's team.
All right, well, we're underway here in game number 2. And let's see what happens. A couple of 1-mana plays so far for Jan-Moritz. Looks like Bone Crusher Giant, more aptly Stomp, is going to take down the opposing Edgewall Innkeeper. That does leave Autumn with an Edgewall Innkeeper of her own. However, she smashes in for, well, just 1 this time. Passes the turn back. Big turn here for Jan-Moritz. What can he come up with? Looks like it's going to be a Kazandu Mammoth.
Yeah, I think the other consideration was just killing the Edgewall Innkeeper because the Bone Crusher Giant is on an adventure. But it looks like he wants to go with the more aggressive option here and just continue to pressure Autumn's life total with the Mammoth, because next turn he can go land, potentially kill Bone Crusher Giant and continue attacking, or just land, play another Mammoth, and then save the Fire Prophecy for a later turn to push through for even more damage.
Okay, land. Soulseer off the top does give an answer for the Mammoth now. And I'm already going to start going there, Paul. I'm thinking about the Great Henge here if I'm sitting in Autumn's seat.
Yeah, definitely. Now, she does have an answer, right? She does have the Embereth Shieldbreaker. So even if Jan-Moritz Merkel goes land into Great Henge, at most he'll be able to play maybe a Scavenging Ooze off of that. It's not that bad. But it looks like Autumn also, because she's on the draw for this game, playing the role of the control player here and just trying to minimize the damage that she takes.
Yeah, you know, sometimes you look at it and say, well, I'm not that worried about the Great Henge, but you know what's a decent card? Kazandu Mammoth. Yeah. Sometimes that thing just hits you for 5, you know? Right. Here's a big turn now for Autumn. A second copy of Edgewall Innkeeper into Bone Crusher Giant means 2 cards going into hand. And boy, there's going to be gasoline for days here for Autumn Burchett. She finds Lovestruck Beast and Shatter Skull Smashing. Already has Vivian Monstrous Advocate, another Bone Crusher Giant, and then that Shieldbreaker that you mentioned in hand. Yowza.
And now Autumn is considering the block here, but of course, if that happens, it'll be kind of a disaster, as Jan does have the Fire Prophecy. And at this point, you know, Jan's just trying to end the game as quickly as possible because, I mean, look at Autumn's hand, right? Autumn just has a completely stacked hand with the multiple edge wall innkeepers in play.
Boy, that was a scary moment there for Autumn Burchett, no doubt about it. No Embercleave in hand there for Jan-Moritz, but the that mammoth came crashing in, and it's like not much you could do though. If you're sitting in an Autumn seat anyway, a block wouldn't change that. So he says, "Okay, do your worst," and it turns out it was 5. It was a nice hit, but it certainly wasn't lethal. Here comes Lovestruck Beast. Is it just going to get hard cast this time? Get those cards?
Yeah, by hard casting it, Autumn does give herself the option of playing out a land and keeping up Stomp. And if she did choose to stomp the 1/1 token in the combat step, that would prevent the Lovestruck Beast from attacking.
That's right. And that does look to be the plan here for Autumn. Unfortunately for her, the Lovestruck Beast can block, well, any dang time at once. There's Fire Prophecy to kill Bone Crusher Giant. Jan-Moritz perhaps trying to set up for a big attack next turn, maybe a top-decked Embercleave. Yeah.
And plus Fable Passage plus Embercleave.
There you go. There you go. Get a couple of looks at it. There's one. Womp.
But really important here for Jan to choose to make a 1/1 right now so that he can get in the attack with that Lovestruck Beast that he has in play. Because currently Autumn can stomp the 1/1. This is not in combat, right? I hope it's not in combat.
It is in combat.
Oh no. Oof. Unless Jan wanted to keep the 5/5 back, but I think, I mean, you're just kind of on the aggressive plan here, given how far ahead Autumn is on cards.
So this is a chump block?
I think Autumn is thinking about what would happen if that last card is an Embercleave. That's what Autumn's kind of thinking about right now. But Autumn is going to be in pretty good shape here now because this is what Jan's going to do. And Autumn can now go Shatterskull Smashing and get the Mammoth and a 1/1 off the battlefield. And then Jan will have a couple of 5/5s in play, but no 1/1s to be able to actually attack. I think that's what he's going to go for here.
That was rough. Leaving back the Lovestruck Beast last turn was a big attack missed there, as Jan-Moritz clearly would love to just find an Embercleave and kind of make it a moot point. But, you know, sometimes you do have to get in with your big 5/5s a few times and work through, you know, leaving Autumn with an additional Edgewall Innkeeper or something. Now, this is a hold your breath moment here for Autumn, and it's the Great Henge, a good card, but not a 1/1.
Yeah, but now the question is, do you run it out now or do you wait, right? Because you have a couple of Lovestruck Beasts in play. I like this play of not running it out because you know that your opponent has multiple Embereth Shieldbreakers after sideboard. So you want to at least be able to get one card off the Great Henge. And it's extremely unlikely that Autumn's going to be able to get both of those Lovestruck Beasts off the battlefield.
Oh, man, it's really fun to watch the players as well. Jan-Moritz Merkel, just complete stone face, hasn't changed his expression a single time, where I think we are all riding along with Autumn there as she's like, hold the baby. And then you saw when he passed the turn, she's like, yes, I got away with it.
Yeah. And it's really important for the time being for Autumn to not tap out and put herself in a situation where Jan can top deck a 1/1 and attack with those Lovestruck Beasts. So she will be mindful and be keeping up the Stomp or the Fire Prophecy for whatever 1/1 Jan might play.
By the way, I've been so impressed by Jan-Moritz Merkel as well. You know, just really smart plays, not playing out the Great Henge here is a good example of that. And look at the payoff. There's Ambush Shieldbreaker, although It is a second Embereth Shieldbreaker, as it turns out.
Well,
2 more cards go into hand. Oh, and there's a Wilt as well, Paul. Questy B off the top of the library here. And that's actually a pretty good draw. The Great Henge can cast it.
yeah, so we'll see a 5/5, and yeah,
Are we going to see Wilt in response here?
we might to prevent a card here.
Yeah.
It might not feel great because you have the Embereth Shieldbreaker in hand, but
Yeah.
because Autumn just is so far ahead on cards, she doesn't want Jan to somehow be able to string some really unlikely sequence of draws to kind of get back into this. We already saw him do it once against Kai in the last round, so just playing it as safe as possible. Additionally, by choosing to wilt in response, that Questing Beast isn't a 5/5, because if it was a 5/5, it would have just been able to attack unimpeded on that last turn.
That's right, with no possible good blocks. So heads up play there from Autumn as she finds the Great Henge. And cards are not the problem here. Autumn is more worried about just getting ran over by the board in the meantime, as setting up the victory here is likely going to be academic. It's just you're going to need to find the ways to win the game, because those Lovestruck Beasts, as anemic as they've been as attackers, have been doing a very good job of holding down the board.
And Embercleave would still not be a terrible draw.
Yeah, the combination with the Questing Beast. Oh, and we're getting a good game here from Jan-Moritz Merkel, and that means that Autumn Burchett has finished the day completely undefeated, and we're used to it. Those of us who do a lot of coverage are used to seeing Autumn smash the field.